Hey guys, how's it going? Comparing here. Today I want to talk to you guys about the Path of Exile economy and kind of what's going on in the early stages of the economy, which is essentially right now. So, in this game there's a lot of currencies. I have most of them here. I'm missing like a divine orb. But most of the currencies in this game modify items. So, if you have a normal item, you can use an alchemy orb on it to turn into a rare item. So you essentially give up wealth at a chance of potentially more or more likely less wealth by using such an item. And that's typically the case with most of these. Some of them, like Gem Cutter's Prism, improves the quality of a gem. This has a certain usefulness. There's no RNG involved in this. So there's some items like that. But a lot of the items are intertwined through the vendors. So, if you go to a vendor here, it's like, oh, an alchemy orb. Well, if I want to buy an alchemy orb, I can spend an orb of regret. So, because of this, because of the vendors and the vendor recipes, there's certain hard boundaries. Like, an orb of alchemy will never be worth more than an orb of regret. In fact, an orb of regret will always be worth slightly more. Because in the end, if you choose not to use it after you've purchased one, you can get an orb of alchemy instead from the vendor. And as such, 2 orbs of scouring are never going to be worth more than an orb of regret. And 4 orbs of chance are never going to be worth more than a scouring. So with this, you can kind of understand some kind of boundaries. And with these boundaries, certain websites have made lists of these things where you can kind of see what the end game economy looks like. Right now, this chart, in my opinion, is not relevant in terms of everything on it. And it can be really misleading for a new player. So that's why I kind of want to introduce you guys to my thoughts on really what's going on. You can use the chart and you can base your trades off the chart. If you do that, if you're the one gaining a higher up currency, you can typically do okay. Like, you're probably not ripping yourself off too badly. But when it comes to trading, you kind of want to have at least an even ground and kind of understand what you're doing. So the thing is, when it comes to stuff like Orbs of Alchemy, these items are immediately useful. So when a guy is really struggling through the game and like, oh man, my amulet really sucks, I need another amulet, he needs an Orb of Alchemy to, play the game. This is mostly a factor of the early stage of the game, because in the later stage, people have amulets. When they want to level a new character, they usually have gear. What I like to do is, I like to just save all of my currency, and I like to use the trade system. You can go, hide trade chat, you can type something with the thing, want to sell, and then link with Control and Alt, Orb of Alchemy. So I can sell an Orb of Alchemy, and I can say that I'm looking for Amies, or something like that, so I can get an amulet that way. And I can kind of choose what I want to get. I like that approach better, but to some people that can't really find what they want, they have added value from items like these in the early stages of the game when there's not that many items introduced into the system. And this, of course, keep in mind, this is on hardcore, because on default they get dumped a lot of stuff. They reach the end game economy very quickly. On hardcore, I feel it's kind of a perpetual thing where it's never really all the way to the end because players keep on dying. Now, when it comes to the currencies, what I mentioned in the usefulness is stuff like Orbs of Alchemy and Chaos Orbs. They're very, very useful to new players. Stuff like Exalted Orbs, not so useful, because of the value of this item, you wouldn't use it on an item that you'd have leveling up. You'd use it on a near perfect item. So right now, it's just an arbitrary form of currency. It's like gold you can't spend. So Exalted Orbs, because of that, actually have less of a value in the early stages of the game when people don't have an immediate use for them. Things like Regret Orbs are actually going to be overvalued, because when people are struggling, they're going to see that they need to respec a little bit, make adjustments to their spec, and not die. And the most interesting thing, I think, is the Gem Cutter Prism. Gem Cutter Prisms is an item that, while you can kind of assess some kind of value to it, there is no vendor recipe for it really. And I mean, if you look at it, improves the quality of a gem. Yeah, you can like save up the gems and vendor them that way, but most people trade Gem Cutter Prisms for quality gems. So when they have like a 10 quality gem like Weapon Elemental Damage, that'd be worth approximately 2 GCPs in the late stage of the game. But gem cutters prisms don't actually give you direct value in most cases. What you would use a GCP for would be something like this. So an 18 quality power siphon, you could amp that up to 20 if you wanted, but because power siphon is a spell you don't typically level, you may lose out in value if you do something like that. What it's really used for is finding an ability. None of the ones I'm showing you are none of the auras, but finding an ability that you level up that's fairly high quality. I think maybe weapon elemental damage. Being 14 quality, you could consider, once you level it up to like level 20, once you're well in the 80s, use like 6 GCPs to get it perfect 20 quality. But your character only gains this benefit at a very high point, at a very high level. You wouldn't want to use like 6 GCPs on your level 10 character with weapon elemental damage because you might die at level 18, And that's really the case. There's these items that are so arbitrary, and you can kind of use that to your advantage. You see, if you want to acquire wealth in the later stages of the game, which is kind of what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to buy stuff like gem cutters prisms, trying to buy stuff like exalted orbs, and I'm trying to sell immediately useful stuff while it hurts me right now. If I used all of my chaos orbs, all of my alchemy orbs, my gear would be much better. My chance of dying would be lower. But in the end, I kind of want to have some good stuff to trade when these really good items start popping up. And for me, that's the more appropriate strategy. So you can kind of think about that, take that into consideration, because when it comes to Path of Exile economy, it's always going to be dynamic when you're playing hardcore. When certain items pop up, when you get offers for your items or stuff like that, it's gonna vary greatly on the immediate people that want the item. And as such, it's a good idea to have a few extra orbs if you're the one buying, and a really good idea of what's worth what at any given time if you're the one selling. So keep that in mind, and hopefully you guys enjoy some of the trading stuff in Path of Exile, because it's definitely very nostalgic to a lot of the older games that I've played. Stuff like Diablo 2, the SOJ currencies and all that stuff. It's very similar to that, and I hope you guys get the same feeling. I'll see you guys tomorrow.